Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone. Welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today, we will be discussing the topic of building and sustaining brand loyalty in retail. In a time when customer expectations are higher than ever and brand switching is just a click away, cultivating customer loyalty has become a critical differentiator for retail success. Shoppers are no longer loyal just by default, they're loyal by experience. And to stand out, retailers must deliver personalized and seamless and value-driven engagements that go far beyond just the transaction. And indeed, according to a Salesforce study just last year, 88% of consumers say the experience a company provides is as important as its products or services. So in short, brand loyalty today is built through intentional, memorable interactions. So in today's session, we'll explore three key strategies that can help you deepen your brand loyalty. First, we'll discuss personalized experiences and offers, tailoring communications, recommendations, and promotions to individual preferences that keep customers coming back. Then we'll explore developing and delivering seamless digital experiences that resonate, removes friction, and enhances satisfaction at every touch point. And finally, we'll look at ways to leverage loyalty programs to drive engagement and retention. So it's going to be a great session today. We're going to dive in, but first I want to say thank you to everyone attending today, and that includes the folks that are joining us live on LinkedIn. Hello, and hello to everyone joining us today on Zoom. Thank you for being with us. During today's discussion, we'd like to hear from you too, so I'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. Join in with your comments in the chat section, and if you have a question along the way, just jump in. I will attempt to get some of your questions into the flow of the show today, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, we've got a great couple of guests here today, joining us today, starting with John Saucides, Principal Enterprise Strategist at Marigold. John, are you with us today?
I am. Hello.
Hello,
Just jumping off
John.
camera.
Coming on in. Where are you calling in from, John?
I'm over in London, England, but with an Australian accent. And I must compliment you on the pronunciation of my surname. Well done.
I will do the best I can. Excuse my accent, John. Well, all right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Also joining us today is Patrick Strauss, founder of Tomorrow's Leaders. Patrick, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
Hi, Kevin. Great to be back. And I'm also calling from the UK, just a little bit outside London.
Wonderful. Well, Patrick, it's great to have you back on the show. Thank you, John. Thank you, Patrick, for being with us. Look, I'd like to start our discussion today by pointing to an article, a study recently published by Marigold on brand loyalty that reveals that while 68% of consumers are willing to pay more for brands they feel loyal to, 70% frequently buy from the same brands without genuine loyalty, making them susceptible to competitors. This article is packed with some really interesting stats. Notably, 37% have become, of consumers, I should say, 37% of consumers have become actually less loyal over the past year, especially younger consumers. So to regain loyalty, consumers need better discounts, improved quality, better customer service, and effective loyalty programs that blend monetary and experiential rewards. It's an interesting article. John, I'd like to start with you. What are your thoughts on the article, and what's your take on the shifts in sentiment in terms of customer loyalty?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I love the Consumer Trends Index, actually. As always, Marigold releases it annually, and it's got so much great insight. But that is one we see a lot, right? So your younger consumers are a little bit more susceptible to, I guess, changing brands that they're loyal to. And it really, it does, there are generational cohorts, we can get into that. But I think you need to blend your monetary stuff, your discounting, and the stuff that speaks to your head with that the emotional side as well. So you need to tap into people's hearts, and so we do see that come through with brands, and sometimes it doesn't need to be all that complex. I mean, I think about people that have heard me speak will probably know what I'm about to say, but I always bring up the example of my local coffee shop. They've just got a simple stamp card program, which sort of reels you in, because every fifth stamp you get a reward. But What I love about it is the experience I get when I'm in there, the way I feel, the way they treat me, the consistency of the product, the fact that they know my order, the fact that they prioritize my order and so forth. And so they really tapped into that emotional side of the brand, and the fact that the people in there know me. And so there's a connection there as well. So you really, to create loyalty, you really need to tap into their head and heart. And I think that's important.
Interesting point, John. People's hearts is an interesting measure. I mean, we talk about drivers like quality and service and personalization, especially with younger consumers. You're saying really need to tap into people's hearts. I can see that perhaps being something that I could do. I don't know if it's easy, but certainly something I could do if I had a coffee shop. But what if I have like a software development firm? How would I tap into people's hearts and build that loyalty, especially with younger consumers in that case?
That's a great question, right? So there's a lot of tactics you can introduce, and I guess I'll just pluck one out. But one that I like that seems to resonate a lot is surprise and delight, and it's around the theme of recognition and acknowledgement. We all like to be recognized, right? I think we're all seeing that a lot in retail now. I think a lot of brands are doing the anniversary type emails, and they're attaching discounts to that and so forth. But there's something to be said for recognition, I think, and it can be done in a lot of forms. So it can be done on an engagement basis. It can be done by if you've got a program of loyalty, you can badge them as well for achieving certain milestones that you want them to hit. Whether that's, I don't know, if it's software business, there might be read our article that we release weekly, and you read 3 articles, and there might be a badge you receive, and that keeps your brand affinity top of mind and so forth. So I think there's something in recognition and acknowledgement.
Now, Patrick, I found some interesting stats in this article. Some of the key loyalty drivers included product and service quality at 82%, exceptional customer service at 74%, personalized offers and loyalty programs at 64%. But I was surprised to see that data privacy was 70% as a driver in this study. That's not super sexy, but it seems to be a very high driver. What's your take on data privacy and consumers today, and why is that such a big driver in the face of other things like service and personalization?
This is a really great question, Kevin. And I'll be honest, when I saw the report yesterday for the first time, I actually could really relate to pretty much all the numbers for me. And the data privacy part that you've mentioned very much is still a hot topic today, as it was, I would say, probably about 10 or 15 years ago when I first worked with both Marks and Spencers, with this kind of topic, when we started introducing technologies such as RFID in kind of clothing and kind of, all helping with the quality of service, which was kind of at that point really hot. And it's still interesting to see that, clearly such research that Marigold has done very much kind of still drives that kind of data privacy side of things. And I think we're all conscious about, what data do you hold about me? How do you actually keep it safe? More importantly, what do you really do with it? And I think there's even 2 more statistics in that article that are really worth kind of highlighting. And this, for instance, 58% of, just need to check, 58% of consumers have left a brand because of poor experiences. Yeah. And that could, for instance, be of, kind of the data privacy side of things. But I think it's a very stark reminder that brand equity is not just only built, but can be destroyed literally within moments, a split second, by getting things wrong. And we've only kind of just seen, what happened with Marks and Spencers in the UK in terms of, brand loyalty and kind of brand recognition, reputation, and the financial impact that has driven. So what I'm taking away from all of this is such that the frictionless intuitive experiences are no longer a nice to have anymore. They are a must have. And you spoke about it at the beginning of it. But there's a second metric that I think is really important to call out. And that, for me, 17%, only 17%, say the brand loyalty is dead. So that tells us there's a plenty of opportunity here still around loyalty, and loyalty needs to evolve. It can't be a gimmick, and it should never be seen as a gimmick. It's about value, connection, relevancy and consistency in a digital first world. And that very much kind of sits with kind of the younger generation that, we see kind of, emerging more and more, looking at that kind of digital first, data privacy conscious engagement.
Yeah, and that's tricky because data is really driving many of the personalizations and the loyalty programs or even social media. So retailers now are sort of stuck between an opportunity and a hard place in terms of data privacy and personalization, which I know we will be talking about in a moment. But how do I balance the need to be very agile with my data and use it in ways that drive loyalty and engagement, and yet ensure that the privacy is well done and well communicated to my consumers and they feel that they can trust me?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, the article is here in the chat feature. It is from Marigold. It is their CTI brand loyalty study. Take a look and let us know what you think, folks. Do you feel the article is spot on, or do you feel that it's missed something important? And what are your thoughts on the condition of customer engagement and loyalty in retail today? It's right here in the chat feature. All right, very good. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to our first discussion point, and that is strengthening customer loyalty through personalized experiences and offers. This is something that marketers, technologists, business minds have been looking at for a while now. It's ever more important today. Indeed, a 2024 study by Wild Geese Media reveals that 76% of consumers are more likely to purchase from brands that offer personalized experiences, and 78% are more inclined to recommend such brands to others. To me, this underscores the driving importance of personalization today, offering a deeper connection, as we've been talking about, making customers feel valued and understood. So, John, what are your takes on strengthening customer loyalty through personalized experiences? How are consumer expectations around personalization evolving? And what does true personalization look like in retail today?
Yeah, all good questions. I'll try and answer them as best I can from my poor memory. But okay, so expectations, I think the way they're evolving is today people expect you to know them, right? They expect you to know a lot about their situation, what they like and don't like, perhaps where they are. They expect relevancy, really, I guess is what I'm getting at. But the conflicting thing, I think, and we see this in the CTI studies, the Consumer Trends Index, is they don't want you to follow them. So they don't want you to start tracking them and all that creepy sort of behaviors that I think is probably becoming part of yesteryear now. And as we get more and more privacy and legislative acts in that are preventing brands from doing this anymore, that third-party tracking and so forth. It is becoming increasingly harder, but the customers find it creepy anyway, or consumers, so they don't want you to do it. So that's the good news is they are happy to share their data with you and tell you what they like and don't like. It gives them control. They've got control when they can tell you, hey, you ask them and they've got the choice. Do I give you the information or do I not? And actually, the good news for brands is if you can get that right, if you can ask a consumer the questions and they're willing to give you the information, you get the value exchange right as well. You build trust, which is really important for loyalty. And once you've got the trust, that starts to snowball and it becomes a two-way conversation where you're sharing information, the consumer's sharing information with you, which then you can use to then personalize and then be super relevant. You can get the right products or the right offering at the right time with the right offers. And again, you can see how that starts to snowball. The consumer starts to like your brand more because they're getting what they want from you at the right times. You're using their data, which is a really important pillar of data collection or important thing to remember. So if you ask for data, so we see to a lot of brands, they ask for data, but they don't use it. How many times do you give your information to a survey or a brand and then you never hear about it again? So really important. you ask for data, you use that data for the consumer, and then you tell them that you've used that data, really send the message home. And that's how you can be super relevant, and you develop that relationship with asking for data, being relevant, and being super personalized. And there's a lot of advantages to it. I hope that answered your question. I might have gone off in a bit of a tangent.
No, actually it does. And Patrick, I'd like to start with you, but please, John, jump into this. When it comes to personalization, I get the concepts, I guess, but how do I actually do it? It's really my big question. So, Patrick, what are some data and some technologies that are most critical for enabling these personalized offers? And John, please jump in here as well. What suggestions in terms of the actual systems and techniques do we have for our viewers today to put personalization into place?
Yeah,
Patrick?
no, absolutely. It's a really great question. And I mean, John used one of the key words, which is relevancy. And I would probably add one more word to this to kind of really start driving true personalization. And that is timing as well, the real timeness of information. So in order to kind of answer the question, what data or tool sets are out there, there's a plethora of kind of technologies out there that are at our disposal. The first one I would say, what you need to do well is a unified customer data platform. And listen carefully what I said, platform without an S. I've seen too many customers using a plethora of different platforms or data sources where the data is not connected. That just doesn't work. Ideally, you want to kind of bring it all together into one platform to kind of get that 360 degree of knowing your customer. That's the only way how you really understand the relevancy, but also kind of respect the privacy part of it as well. Secondly, real-time analytics, kind of AI, I think is a great tool for it to kind of really customize some of the personalization, some of the messaging, but also kind of really looking a little bit deeper into kind of, the core data that you've got, which probably would a human being take a long time to kind of really see patterns and kind of really understand how we can sort of kind of apply personalization to customers. AI can be a great tool and engine to support you within that. And then lastly, kind of things such as IoT, Internet of Things kind of capabilities in stores. The mobile phone, the humble mobile phone that we've got, that we all carry around, has a plethora of sensors and data. As John kind of said, we kind of try to connect with our consumers and customers in a way to allow us collect all this data. The key really is to understand what data do I need and why. And kind of that builds the transparency and kind of really building on that. When you see something happening, go and respond now, because we all know the moment a piece of information is created, it is already becoming out of date or kind of antiquated very, very quickly. So acting in real time is vitally important within that to kind of really build that true personalization.
Just to build on tactics as well on top of that, one simple way I think that often gets overlooked, but we think is very, very powerful, is progressive profiling, right? So asking, because there's a lot of data you can gather, but zero-party data or that interest and preference data that really gets to the heart of what consumers want. We find it's hard to ask for everything up front. No one wants to fill in a doctor's form when they're engaging with a brand, right? Like, when you go and register at your doctor or your dentist, certainly over here anyway, there's 3 pages you need to fill in. And so no one wants those types of surveys. And so progressively profiling, asking for bite-sized information over the period of the relationship you have with the brand, or with your customers as a brand, I should say, it's a really powerful way to continuously build that profile on your customer. And also the other advantage is you do it because you're doing it progressively, you're building up the trust of the consumer, all that stuff I spoke about before. So there's a two-way relationship going. But beyond that, it's keeping the data accurate and up to date. We all know that, what I liked, a few months ago isn't what I like today. And so your consumers' preferences change, and they can change because, as humans, we evolve and change what we like, but also there's factors outside of, outside of your control. The economy changes, things happen, you might lose your job, et cetera, et cetera. So all those type of things. So progressively profiling, super powerful. I'm just going to quickly plug Marigold Grow. It's one of our products that does that. It does it in a gamified way, so it makes it fun and exciting. And it also takes away the need, the immediate need for a CDP, right? And I only say that because I think CDP is one way to go about it, but it can often be a heavy investment and takes a lot of time. So not disagreeing, I think it's a great option. But there are other options out there as well for brands that are looking, going on that journey. And I think Marigold Grow is a really great way to do that.
All right. So Patrick is talking about start with the data first. It's all driven by data. Unify your data. Don't use a bunch of different unconnected weird systems. Put it in a platform that you can get to and use ubiquitously. Leverage tools like AI and Internet of Things, perhaps. And John, you're talking about the real power of progressive profiling over time. These both sound fantastic. And now I've done that. What kind of tools do I use to actually present these personalized offers? Is it through email, social media, on my website, all of the above? How does that actually work? Will my customer data platform do this for me? What kind of tools do I need to actually now employ the personalization? Either one, Patrick or John?
So for me, I think, use the traditional kind of ways of, email and apps, kind of is still kind of something that a lot of retailers are still struggling to get right. But, kind of this is kind of how people kind of interact. And, you have to really understand the omni-channel route. Yeah, the online versus the offline kind of buying behaviors. And you need to really cater for all of those. But I would say, the still traditional way is, kind of, and we all kind of see it every time we open our inbox, is, kind of getting an email. But the key very much for me is consumers don't just want the name on the email. They actually want some relevancy. They want the brand to demonstrate that they know the rhythm or the preferences or, my anticipated needs. And I'll give you a really good example of a company that actually does it in my books probably pretty well, and that's Amazon. Yeah, Amazon knows me, probably knowing myself even better than myself in terms of, kind of looking at my kind of purchasing history, looking at the behaviors, looking at my search and everything else, and recommending items for me even before I even probably think, oh, I need one of those. And I've seen it over and again, kind of, for Amazon and other retailers to kind of really starting on that far more proactive, that sort of kind of me first moment personalized drive. And I see that, very happy through the kind of the traditional standard channels.
All right.
Yeah,
Very
I think
good.
just to echo, sorry to interrupt, but what Patrick's saying, that whole omni-channel piece is so crucial, because particularly for retailers, I think, and it's the bit of a buzzword here, but phygital, right? So what's the experience like when you're in store versus when you're online or at home or away from the store, and getting that experience to be seamless. So what I see online is what I see in store. And if we start talking about loyalty, you're part of a program, to the point of Patrick's point around omni-channel and being present everywhere. How many times this happens? I get an email and it doesn't tell me anything about my points, and I'm part of a program for that company. But CRM and loyalty teams, a lot of the time that we see, they're disjointed. So to the customer, it's one brand, but to the teams behind it, they're like, oh no, we're two different teams. And so the customer just feels disjointed. So that omni-channel piece of stitching it all up so it's seamless for the consumer is so crucial. I think I just wanted to plug that in.
Agree.
This is Digital Transformation Talk. We are here with John Saousides, Principal Enterprise Strategist at Marigold, and Patrick Strauss, founder at Tomorrow's Leaders. If you have a question or a comment for our guest today, pop it into the chat feature. I will attempt to get some of your comments or questions into the flow of the show, and we'll have some time here at the end as well. All right, John, well, you are pointing us directly to our next discussion point. We've been talking a bit about the technologies and the data and the driving systems behind personalization and customer loyalty. I'd like to talk about the experiences themselves. 70% of consumers, according to State of Digital Customer Experience report from Verint, 70% would switch to another competitor after a poor experience. What about the experiences themselves? John, what are some of the biggest friction points that customers encounter? What is some of that friction that derails their journey, and how can we address those?
Yeah, I guess I was alluding to some of them already. So, it's just that disjointed experience for a consumer, right? So it could be anything. I mean, it's the brand sends you an offer, you go in store or online to redeem the offer, you can't for whatever reason. Because the systems weren't joined up and you weren't able to get it. You go in store to redeem an offer, to take advantage of a sale perhaps that you got emailed about and the sale's not on, for example, right? So that disjointed experience can be, it can be a massive friction point for consumers. And I just think, and I've already sort of said this, but I just think you need to stitch up the back end. So you need all the systems talking to each other, but more importantly, you need your teams to be across everything as well. I think we see that a lot with retailers where I guess there's just cross-functional alignment isn't always in place, and training and so forth. And I just think that's very important.
Now, Patrick, we're talking about a bunch of different channels. We're talking about email, we're talking about web, we're talking about chatbots, live support. How do we ensure consistency and great experiences across these multiple channels? And what impact does that have when we are disjointed, as John is describing?
Yeah, and actually, it's a great question. And I just saw a question in the chat as well, which I tried to link to kind of the both together, because I think Lauren's got a very good point here. So first and foremost, getting that omni-channel consistency right is not an easy task. Let's kind of be really, really blunt about this. But creating the one story that kind of you can extrapolate around the many touch points that you have in your omni-channel strategy is absolutely vital. And you can use things such as APIs to kind of, real-time orchestration, to keep your journey sort of aligned across the web, the app, in-store, email, whatever else. But I think for me, there is something about really creating something that resonates about your digital experience. And what does resonance actually mean? And for me, it means two things. And that leads me very nicely into sort of Lauren's key question. Resonance for me is all about that emotional clarity and the functional ease. Now, Lauren asked in the chat, I've always been looking to deepen customer loyalty through personalization. How are you seeing brands successfully balance personalized offers with seamless digital experience without crossing the line into feeling intrusive or overwhelming for the customer? And I think this is a really great question. But I think this is exactly the point I was trying to lead into, is that emotional clarity and functional ease, the resonancy. For me, if it saves time and works intuitively, it feels relevant. So hence, if the messages you're sending to me feel relevant to me, that's fine. But if you're sending a lot of stuff where I can't see the relevancy to me, that's where I think we're crossing the line in terms of, is it kind of intrusive? Is it actually kind of really something where I feel overwhelmed? And I have to say, I see probably, unfortunately, still too many companies doing the latter part and not enough companies actually really understanding me intricately enough to kind of really demonstrate that emotional clarity for me. And I think, what I've seen, in terms of that digital experience, and I'll give you that really example very quickly. My biggest bugbear in terms of a digital experience currently is when I go into a supermarket, Tesco, Sainsbury's in the UK, etc., and you have the app, their loyalty app on your mobile phone, and you're trying to use it in store, and it doesn't work. And it's not because the app doesn't work, your phone doesn't work. The biggest friction here is the Wi-Fi, the in-store Wi-Fi, because most of the times the 4G, 5G signal just doesn't work inside the stores. So what you have is a very clunky customer experience where actually some of that loyalty data sits on your mobile phone that you have, but you can't connect it seamlessly kind of to your shopping experience. And it is something that I've seen over and over again, that clunkiness that kind of really drives and puts you off, which is kind of something that doesn't seem to have been kind of really resolved, looking at all the great technologies that we have at our disposal.
The Lauren's question as well, they're all great points. I would say, and we've sort of spoke around this already, but give consumers control over what they want to personalize. So you can, a lot of brands do this with preference hubs, and but what do you want to hear from us about, and then it gives you the license to do that. Collecting zero-party data again. So again, that transparency piece around, hey, you tell us what you want and we'll give it to you. And then when you do go to personalize your offers, tell them that you're doing it because they told you. And that just gives you a license to really do whatever you want and talk to them about that. And I would just say, just be a little bit cautious about how you personalize. And we talked about the creep factor earlier. So like, if you're seeing a consumer browse a particular item, and then you say, oh, because you browse, I see a lot of brands doing this, because you get retargeted a lot with things you browsed or cart abandonment type emails, which is probably a little bit more intent. But if you see people browse and then suddenly you start getting emails about something, I'd say some people might find that a bit creepy. But if you've purchased, I don't know, I'll make it up, a 2-liter bottle of milk, I think, it would be reasonable to then retarget that customer again with, after a week, saying, hey, do you need milk? 2-liter milk, and here it is, and here's the cost this week, or whatever it is. So I'd say that there's probably some tips you could go with.
Well, gentlemen, we talked a lot about personalization. When it comes to customer experience, responsiveness is a big factor for me. I know that I like things like chat bots and live support. Often when I'm interacting with a company, maybe I'm already a customer. I personally like having sort of those AI-driven chat bots and the idea of having a chat with an agent online. My wife hates it. She likes being able to call and talk to a real person, and sometimes is frustrated. It can be frustrating on both sides. What role does real-time responsiveness like this play in enhancing digital experiences? John?
Yeah, real-time responsiveness, obviously, I mean, in today's, the world we operate in, we live in there, unfortunately, because of the internet, most likely, everyone wants everything yesterday, right? So people demand service. You referenced chatbots. I mean, they're a nice way to give information that you would otherwise need to search for, really. They're getting smarter. With AI, I guess they're getting better. What I would say with chatbots, though, is like, just be upfront. Like, I can understand why your wife hates them. I hate them as well. Because I probably come from the age where I used to do my projects in primary school, with an encyclopedia, which makes me feel very, very old. But, I'm used to gathering information. So if I want to get the information, I want to get it. If I've given up on that idea and I'm reaching out, I now need to speak to a human. Yeah, I don't need you to scour the same website that I was going to scour to just give me generic information. It's where I think that I've spoken a lot about transparency on this webinar, but transparency is important. I know a lot of chatbots, sometimes they try and make it seem like you're conversing with a human. And I actually think we think about generational cohorts and we go up the age limits. Some people often think they are. Like, I think people in our age groups and in Gen Z, of course, they know they're speaking with a robot or a bot, as they would say. But the older generations don't, and that's frustrating, right? They would get frustrated because you start going around in circles sometimes with these bots. So I think that transparency piece is really, really important when it comes to customer service. But to your point, how important it's really important, but being transparent about what information is being supplied, how, and giving customers options around how they can escalate their service if they're not getting what they need from what you're providing up front is good, because that's the other friction point, as we've been calling it on this call or this webinar. Friction point around you sometimes can lead to dead ends with these bots as well, or these help, guidance and advice pages. You go somewhere, right, you can't find it, it's not quite right, and then you can't find a phone number, and it sort of can become very frustrating.
Kevin, right, can I just interject? I'm intrigued to understand, why do you like chatbots?
It's responsive. A chatbot is right there, and I'm hoping that a chatbot is linked to all the data that might be pertinent either on me or the subject of what I'm inquiring about. It might be more informative than a human. Indeed, that because it's connected to that information and may have all the answers that I need right there. And then I like chat human agents as well, where I can get right on a chat feature and talk to someone, and they can send me links, and hopefully they're linked into my account. I find that to be much more expeditious and complete, often than waiting and talking to a human person. But
Yeah.
that's just me. It has to be done well. If
Yeah.
it's not, then it's more frustrating than it's worth.
It's absolutely, and this is exactly what my question was designed to do, because I'm very much with John here as well. I still have to find really a good chatbot where I would say it's
Mhm.
delivered value to me. I've recently kind of went to one of the telco operators, and tried to get through a human being, but was with talking to a chatbot first and foremost, and the
Oh,
experience was kind of soul destroying, in the sense of I knew it just wasn't getting anywhere. And it would have been probably much easier to go to an old fashioned IVR system, press one, press two, press five, and you ultimately kind of get through to a human being. But equally, kind of it has to deliver value, ultimately, an outcome. And I still think, this is where a lot of chatbots can or need to improve, to kind of really listen and understand the nuances, the sentiment of what customers are actually looking and asking
yeah.
for.
Get
But
it
they're getting
right.
better.
Get it right, and I think it's competitive advantage. All right, well,
Yeah,
gentlemen, I'm
absolutely.
cognizant we are running short of time. I do want to ask real quick questions about loyalty programs, which is our third discussion point today. Just really quickly, maybe a quick round here. John, in your opinion, what makes a loyalty program stand out today, and how can we go beyond simple point systems?
Uh, I think delivering on an emotional value, right? So I said it earlier in the call about recognition and that type of theme. I think when you connect, I spoke about the head and the heart, right? So when you connect with people's hearts through recognition, through exclusivity and loyalty programs as well. So
Okay.
think about, I don't know, if you're part of I know ATG Plus ticketing, for example, they've got some great perks as part of their, if you're a theatre goer, sorry, I should say they're the theatre group. They've got some great perks with like get a drink, you can skip the queue, you can sometimes meet backstage staff. And so that
Mm,
exclusivity and that surprise and delight element to their program, really beautiful for tapping into those emotional money can't buy experiences. So for
no.
me, that's a really big one. And I'll stop talking because I know we need to get to Patrick. So we're running out of time.
Well, Patrick, my question for you is, look, I live by the axiom, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So really quickly, how can we measure the success of a loyalty program in terms of long-term customer value and retention?
Yeah, I think there's this, the standard sort of kind of measures of success out there: retention rate, churn reduction, NPS, CSAT, kind of the I would say for me, kind of the classic and standard sort of kind of variables that you can look at. But for me, the incremental revenue value that you can drive from loyalty customers is a really, really good indicator, and probably something that's not always is being measured well. But really understanding, even sometimes turning the dial just slightly, and what impact that can drive on the revenue impact from loyalty customers can be quite significant
Mm.
over time.
All right, gentlemen, we have reached the action item round of the program. I'm wondering if you could please provide us with one quick action item that our viewers can use to take advantage of the ideas and advice today. Patrick, do you have an action item for us?
Not sure if it's an action item, but probably certainly something to keep in your head. So I would always say brand loyalty isn't dead. In fact, it's earned differently now through empathy, clarity and relevance, experience, and everyday relevance. Sorry, I've just said relevance twice. But that for me is kind of empathy, experience, and everyday relevance. That is really how you
Mm.
do brand loyalty well today.
Fantastic. That is Patrick Strauss, founder of Tomorrow's Leaders. Patrick, it's been great having you back on the show. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us. John, do you have an action item for us?
Sure. So I spoke a lot about personalization, and I think personalizations to drive and the emotional loyalty piece. I think they're really important. But also I just think loyalty as a concept, more than just a program. So thinking about loyalty as advocacy and how you can integrate advocacy for your brand and making consumers feel that connection at every stage of the journey. I think that's the most important thing. And you can do that through tailored experiences, through acknowledging them, as we said. You can, give them missions to complete, all things that are enhanced through a loyalty program, because it's, a one-stop shop and it becomes easier to manage. Things that you can do to embed it at all stages of the life cycle, with or without a program as well. So I think that's really important.
That is John Sawasides, Principal Enterprise Strategist at Marigold. John, Patrick, what a great discussion today. Thank you so much. Your advice and perspectives are spot on. I hope that we'll get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. Be sure to check out our sister show, AI Talk. Our next episode will be on June 3rd, where we will be discussing unleashing your creativity and innovation with AI. That should be a great discussion. So check it out. And meanwhile, if you'd like to find me, and you can do so on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect there. Check me out. I'm Kevin Crane, and check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. And until next time, I'm Kevin Crane saying thank you and thanks for watching.